We are live. Sound
Let's
Minds.
go. SoundMinds Season 2. Positive energy always causes elevation. Let's go. It can't get no better than this, my brothers. We have some heavy heat. We have some heavy heat today. So, I mean,
Salute
for the most
with
part,
sea water and spring water.
there you go. My man is on his my man self is in the building. He is on his promoting schemes. I am LiteSkin. LiteSkin stands for living it through every situation known in nature. I have my two brothers with me with some special guests that we are so humbly appreciative of their time and being here.
I am King Ra. That's King Ra Shaman. For sure, for the full length. You know who it is, man. We back with a season 2, man. I am excited. I'm very excited. Rapoet.
Self-suffice, the rap poet, kind, self-suffice, time is money, your wealth is life. It's only right that we say thank you to everybody who rocked with us for the first season, 10 episodes. I can't even believe it's done. Shout out to Pearl Gates and Wordsworth for ending off the season finale with us. It was beautiful. And y'all was the first to usher in us having 2 guests at one time. And so we are going to try to do this. We're going to try to keep this same energy and have 2 guests on a lot of our shows. Now, you may have noticed that for the past week or 2, we've been promoting an amazing story. True story. Just a couple weeks ago, someone came out the blue on a popular venue that we always see. And it's great to see diversity. It's great to see so much talent. It's great to see people winning, especially when you have skills and you can vicariously see others doing great things. But the greater it is and the more people go by getting things, sometimes it's also glaring what's missing. And we've seen America's Got Talent have so many different guests and genres and so forth. But for those of us in the lyrics and the bars and the poetry community, we've been seeing something missing. And this young person went up there out the blue and dropped without a beat, without special effects, without a shiny suit, without anything that you would say. Words from his heart. And so touched the judges and the crowd that he won, and he ushered in a new era for America's Got Talent AGT to say you can be something valuable on America's Got Talent as a poet / spoken word artist / barbarian, whatever you want to call it. Okay.
And
he
you
went
may see
on
him, and you may
to
see
get
him in that bottom
the
left
golden
corner.
buzzer.
Yes, sir.
That's right.
Yes, sir. So
Let's
the introduction.
Give a round of applause. If you're
Let's
on YouTube
go.
or Facebook, post a comment. Welcome this young man by the name of Brandon Leake to
Brandon
the show.
Leake.
Comments, put some comments in the chat, YouTube, Facebook. Share this out. Let this brother know he's appreciated and that he represents for so many of us who have been missing this genre, being appreciated by America's Got Talent.
And with that being said, we're gonna get into the intro.
The pleasure.
And with that being said, let's get into the introduction of the SoundMinds Podcast. And we're gonna jump right into this interview with Brandon Leake, family. SoundMinds.
SoundMinds.
This is the SoundMinds Podcast. You don't wanna miss these gems. You don't wanna miss these gems. You don't wanna miss these gems. This is the SoundMinds Podcast. You don't wanna miss these gems. You don't wanna miss these gems. You don't wanna miss these gems. This is the SoundMinds Podcast. You don't wanna miss these gems. You don't wanna miss these gems. You don't wanna miss these gems. This is the SoundMinds Podcast. You don't wanna miss these gems. You don't wanna miss these gems. You don't wanna miss these gems, no. Yes. It is the SoundMinds Podcast, and we have a special guest.
Let's clap it up for Rashaman on that beautiful intro with the singing.
Come on. SoundMinds.
Okay, Jessica, Brandon, everybody out there, this boy bad with the engineering. That's another topic.
So, Mr. Leake, you are a guest of ours. The floor is yours. We thank you for your time.
Yes.
Please, anything that you could grace us with, brother, go ahead. And do we introduce the other guest as well while we here?
Thank you all first and foremost for the opportunity to be here.
Okay. I'm sorry, Brandon. Go ahead.
But nah, man. First and foremost, thank you all for the opportunity. But no, thank you all for the opportunity to be here. It means a lot to me. A poet out of the West Coast, being able to rock with some East Coast folks and knowing all the labor and love that you guys put into this craft. Just super honored and a massive pleasure to be able to be here with you all today. So thank you guys for the opportunity.
We thank you very much. And so I know that we're talking about a surprise guest as well. We're going to get into Brandon Leake's story and as well as the surprise guest, but the surprise guest from what I see is being seen right now. So I think the surprise is out the bag. We are also graceful.
No, it's not.
Her name is not showing.
It's how you see it. They don't see it.
Okay, yeah. So surprise. There's no surprise.
This is the second time the surprise almost got out the bag. You could tell it's a powerful surprise. I love this because it's building the anticipation even more. But Brandon, I need to do something that my brother Light in the middle taught me to do, which is before we get into this, please let us know, is there anything that you don't want to talk about on this podcast? Because we're really here as stars in a constellation. We're not here to like make you feel uncomfortable. We like to challenge each other, but we certainly want to do that in a great respect, not in a negative light. So before we even get into the interview, is there anything that you don't want to talk about or don't like being asked about?
Nah, man, I'm pretty good. Like my life is pretty much open outside of my sexual life. So I'm like, that's pretty much the
hilarious.
So.
Okay. All right, so let's set it off with Light.
So, Mr. Leake, young black 27-year-old, Stockton, California, not one of the easiest places to be from, right? We all know kind of like the story in regards to where we come from. The only difference really, West Coast, East Coast, is the street names, right? And the change of time, of course. But first and foremost, I want to congratulate you. You just had a baby. How's the baby girl?
She is good, man. She is it's crazy, man, because like when the episode aired, she was only 2 weeks old. And so now she's about to be 5 months and like 3 days. I turned 28 in that time. And so like it's been like, she's great. My wife is doing awesome. And I as messed up as COVID has been, it gave me a gift that I prayed for a lot, which was time with my daughter. And so I've been able to be home, working from home, and haven't missed anything. And so
beautiful.
Now
beautiful.
you brought up the show, and we have and it's all in the title. We see it's an America's Got Talent Gold Buzzard, winner right here. And if you haven't seen his performance that he put on right here, it's an amazing performance, and I think we definitely want to not play the performance, but I would like to play the ending of this performance. The ending of when right before they hit the buzzer, and I want to know if you can walk us through this feeling. Let's relive this feeling with you and what we see with you, and let's walk us through it. So let me play it for the listeners that haven't seen it. Let's play it for the listeners that haven't seen it and see.
Go ahead and Mike's.
Yep, and we'll literally watch this epic moment, and after we watch this epic moment, I would love for our brother to break this down to us.
That on season 15, it's the first time that we're hearing somebody of spoken word. There was something more raw in the way it's like singing and talking and just being a human a cappella. No music, no nothing, just a raw heart beating in front of us. We feel your pain, we feel your love, and you moved me to do this.
They speak of a better place. They speak of kingdoms and how they come. They speak of freedom and marching drums. Freedom and marching drums.
You're amazing, buddy.
Amazing. For copyright purposes, I can't play the whole thing because he played that song. But my brother Brandon, that moment of being told you're the first out of all these seasons to move his hand in that direction. What's going on, my brother?
Man, to be honest with you, it was so surreal for a lot of reasons. Like there was so much that went into that A and like that. Am I good now?
Yep.
Okay, cool. But nah, man, there was just so much that went into that moment and into that day. For me, like driving out there, my car died on the drive out to LA to go try out for the show. So that delayed me like 3 hours. So I didn't get to LA until like 2:30 in the morning, had to start filming at 8 a.m. Not only that, I was supposed to originally go there on a Monday. On Friday, they called me and said, hey, if you want to record, you have to get here tomorrow. And so like I had to like change plans, leave work early, check in with wife, 2-week-old baby, get all that stuff cleared so I can head out there. Then throughout the course of like the day of filming, like all the crews got together multiple times and almost canceled the show because COVID was going on, and it was the day that California shut down. And so
just a little break in his audio right now because he's on the move.
As soon as he said shut down, you seen what?
It's shut down.
Yo, Brandon, if you could hear us, you did just shut down. While we're waiting for him to come back, special guest, don't unmute your camera yet. I mean, don't show your camera yet, but I have a question for you. You've been a similar scenario. Did you resonate with that feeling of the music going off and the golden crowd going crazy and confetti flying? Is that something that you resonated with or felt like you could relate to what this young poet was feeling?
Well, I was 22 when that happened to me. And it's very different than America's Got Talent, you know.
Right.
For people who don't know, like my stage was the Apollo stage in a very black space. Right. And but there had never been a poet at that point who had ever won the amateur night competition on the televised show. And
that's right.
And I think also the difference is I had to do it 5 times. And so, so I did it, once, and it was a surreal experience winning the Apollo, and Steve Harvey and Kiki Shepard and Ray Chu and the crew, who I've seen since then, all of them in different spaces, were very happy that it was happening. Like everybody was kind of freaking out, like, yo, this young lady is up here reading a poem and people are losing their shit. So, and mind you, I was a baby. I had only been in New York for 5 months, still learning the train. So
straight from the D.
Changed my life. But yeah, I think the difference is, it was Harlem, it was the Apollo. But that time in New York City, everybody watched the Apollo. That's when like Nas had done the show, and I think the Fugees were there when I was there, and Brandy and Wu-Tang Clan. So when backstage, Paul Mooney was backstage.
Okay, hold on. I think Brandon's back with us.
Okay, great. Okay.
And also, we are gonna talk more about that because for people who do deserve a bit, but Brandon, hear us, right?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
He's fully back. Cool.
Okay, I think he's back with us. Okay, cool. All right. So before we go back to you, I want to ask our anonymous guest was just talking a little bit. Anonymous guest.
Yeah.
I know you because I saw the show and I know there was no confetti and the gold. So my question to you is, did you feel, because a lot of us don't know what that feels like viscerally, right? We're watching through a screen and we're comparing colors and music and soundtracks, right? But y'all are having a whole different visceral experience.
Yeah.
Do you think y'all had a similar visceral feeling? Like, in other words, was there an invisible confetti? And then I'm gonna go to Brandon on your side. I know it's not traditionally a black space or people of color space, but I'm gonna get to you after her just to ask you the same thing. Did you feel like you were representing this moment of black people? Because you could tell intentionally they had this song about freedom and they were needing some blackness. I feel that show definitely was ready for it, right? So think about that. But Jessica, do you feel like just in the moment of winning, was it meaningful? Was it exciting for you?
It was overwhelming. I mean, I cried, I was pretty overwhelmed by the experience. Just like I was saying, just like Steve Harvey and everybody else was, I think all of us were kind of like, what just happened? A little bit of shock. I didn't expect to get, like the Apollo was also different, is that they boo people off the stage. And so, that shit is crazy. So, to not get booed was one thing, but then to be embraced by that audience to the point where it was, I felt it in my body when they stood up. And I was 22 years old, like just off the boat in Detroit, very, running around Brooklyn and on open mics and things. And so, and everything changed after that. But yeah, definitely a surreal experience. And also I think because I had to do so many more tapings after that, before they decided to retire me after 5 weeks. And so that's where it became, I knew something special had happened. Yeah.
So I want to add and say that's why you see we have a special guest that we haven't announced yet.
Can I get off? Let me get off those so the brother can talk.
You see why she got something up under her belt. She got something up under her belt. But I definitely want to go back into that surreal moment. That surreal moment that Brandon was, speaking of. If you want to continue with that moment.
I'm sorry about dropping out too. My phone overheated or something like that. So
no problem, really brother.
We understand, bro.
For me, to answer the question, it was super surreal, man. And I did in a weird way. I knew I carried two things with me. I carried my blackness onto that stage because when you have a show entitled America's Got Talent in an era that we're living in now, like, what does that really mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, can a black person be the face of talent in America for the rest of the world to see? And then not only that, but also I knew instinctually I was carrying the weight of this poetry community, in which so oftentimes gets overlooked and overshadowed, even to the point now, like even on YouTube pages and stuff like that, I get people who post like, yo, like, he's not talented. There's no way he could win. He didn't earn that golden buzzer. He didn't deserve that because, like, all he did was go up there and vent for like 2 minutes. And it's like you're fighting a multitude of battles on that stage, and then to come out victorious in that way was just crazy to me.
Oh man, that really even segues into a question.
Thank you for that
from
answer,
listening
bro.
to that.
You said a lot.
That's how deep it was, to understand the battle that he was facing, And speaking of, like, you speak with very deep intentions, right? In your spoken word, which makes it great. But people, like you said, people are saying like he just went up there and vented, like. Or what did you say to people that's saying it's more like storytelling and it's not poetry? You know, do you do that to distinguish yourself from other spoken word artists and poets?
Man, there is no art form that is not an art form of telling story, right? Like the painter tells a story with the painting, with every intentional brush that they put up against that piece of canvas. You know what I mean? The sculptor has to see the sculpture has to see a sculpture in that rock and has to take the journey to then reveal what he saw or what they saw inside of the rock. So there's a story in every single piece of art that anybody has ever made. There's a story behind the song. There's a story behind like a movie is nothing but a story. And the greatest comparison I give to people who denounce what spoken word is, I say, you enjoy comedy, right? A person who goes up there, stands up there, and makes you laugh, and all they do is talk. The only difference between me and the comedian is the comedian makes you feel good for laughing. I make you deal with your inner demons, and you don't like that.
You talk to him. You talk to the soul.
And so I'm like, yo,
Right.
like, it's okay if you don't like
And
what I'm making you feel. You just got to understand that that's not my problem.
And you overcame that.
Right.
Even it was so much more of an accomplishment for you because you already knew you were up against that battle in a sense. So you already knew that was up against you. Already knew, oh, he just went up there doing that. But at the same time, that gold buzzer was for a reason.
Oh, yeah. And not only that, but like I knew what I was competing against talent-wise, right? Like there's people who go up there, they do flips, tricks, like fire breathing. My boy Loudermilk does sword swallowing. I'm like I'm not like, I'm going to be honest. Spoken word is not as entertaining as seeing somebody spit fire, like literal fire. You know what I mean? Like it's not the same type of entertainment. So I'm like, how do I now get you attached to Brandon? Well, there's something unique about spoken word that no other art form has. And what that is I can share my story on stage to make you buy into me. Nobody else gets the chance to do that.
Right.
So now, why not use that?
When you say sharing your story, that doesn't
but
still
real
put
quick.
you in, oh, go ahead. My bad.
Right.
Go ahead, Light.
Oh no, I was gonna say, I got a couple of things, Brandon.
Like was deep in thought, y'all. Pardon.
Yeah, I'm talking.
Got deep thought.
You hear me?
We hear you.
Y'all hear me?
Yeah.
I think you was going off the point about how
what I was going to say was
fire with the bars.
There must be a delay with LiteSkin, like with Light.
Okay.
He's getting our words late.
Yeah. You hear me now?
We can always hear you.
Y'all hear me now? Oh, okay. What I was going to say was, Brandon, first and foremost, I got to say, even for those that doubt, you know what I mean? Like one of the things that I learned as a youth, I had somebody who was older than me trying to teach me certain things in regards to life. And he always told me, people are going to hate you for moving boxes right. You know what I mean? And truth of the matter is, you broke history, not only as a poet, but like you said, as a black man in a show that says America Got Talent. And you're right. In most situations, most people would say, seeing fire come out of somebody's mouth or somebody being stabbed with a sword is more entertaining. But truth of the matter is, when you think about history's history, we always celebrated the Shakespeares and the Walt Whitmans and everybody else. So the fact remains, the intellectual will always say, I prefer to hear some words that are going to touch me. And especially with your poem, because you were talking about the loss of a loved one, you know what I mean? And putting that on stage, while most people will sit there and not be able to share that just based off of the fact that they're not understanding what it is to be entertaining and then what it is to be actually real. And I think you did both. You were real with your story and you were real with your poetry, but at the same time, it was entertaining to the ear of which has gone through that. You know what I mean? You had the host sit there and cry because she had lost her brother at the same time. Ironically, the funny thing is I lost my brother that year as well. You know what I mean? So it's just certain things like that. Now, granted, different situations and all that, but the fact that you were able to eloquently speak upon the loss of a loved one, and in the sense of it, right? And that's a question I have for you later on. In the sense of it, it's kind of like turning pain into triumph. You were able to get your words out, able to get your experience out, and you got a gold buzzer based off of the fact that you were felt probably harder than the person spitting a flame out their mouth. You know what I mean? With you, it was more so, damn, this is going to remain with me. This is going to touch me, and it's going to touch others based off of the reality of what life is. And here's this young black man from California who, an educator as well, is able to touch America. America's Got Talent. You was able to touch America and the world with the fact that you told your story. So I applaud you and I commend you and salute you for that, brother.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I want to say that, you know, we got in 4 minutes, we're going to bring our special guest back in the call. But I do believe that everyone on this call, and we appreciate your humility, you know, being humble. It's like you can't tickle yourself with certain things that might not work if you say them about yourself. But I think all of us on this call have experienced saying something. I mean, I was at a Black Lives Matter street mural for the city I'm in today, you know, and it was hot. People were talking. And when I got on that mic, people shut the hell up and they listened. And when I got off that mic, people told me how it touched them. Now, I think everyone on this call, including you, because we saw you do it on live TV, has experienced people crying. So just on the same token as we say, you know, this spitting this fire might not be as interesting as spitting that literal fire, right? I also don't think I've ever seen a fire spitter, and this is no disrespect to them. I don't think I've ever seen a literal fire spitter bring tears to people's eyes or make them want to call a family member or think about a loved one. So
Right.
I do want to say thank you, Light, for this is what we do on this podcast. We don't have regular conversations that podcasts have. We value each other and bring out things that sometimes mainstream society skips over. It's true that it might not be entertaining in some regards, but in some regards, this really needs to be seen by America, especially right now, because what you did on that stage and what a lot of us have done is seeing people open up and address things that are just not convenient parts of trauma to get back to in your day-to-day life until you hear that poem.
You know, you created the vulnerability and you created that empathy. You know what I mean? Just that's empathy that people are feeling when they listen to your poems. You know, and it's not just the one that you spit on America's Got Talent. That's not the only one. You literally have a list of them that are in that same format, that same, you know, passion, that same vulnerability, that same soul-searching aspect, right? And like I've watched the one like Dear Rebecca, Letters, Tick, Divine Intervention, Sandcastles. Like this is you. You went up on America's Got Talent and you did you. So I definitely also want to add to that and commend you to that too.
Man, I'm happy you did your research on my old poetry videos, man.
Oh yeah, that's what we do, brother. That's what we do, brother. The one thing that we're very big on in regards to the brand of the SoundMinds is the fact that one, the guests that we bring in, we got to make sure that they understand how much we appreciate them, not only for being here, but for being who they are. Because truth of the matter is, we're not just asking just anybody to be on here. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of stuff that other people will do for the likes or for the, you know, the world that we live in where everybody's just trying to be out there and trying to get some type of notoriety off of just the big pop. Like you said, the fire spitter, right? The literal fire spitter. But this is more on a intellectual level of this young man is, and we're going to get into the fact that you were educated too, which I have a theory and we kind of spoke on in the last podcast. This young man has a child, is a family man, so on and so forth, but spoke about his pain and was able to get something that you broke history, brother. You broke history, and that can never be taken from you. And truth of the matter is, I don't think that anybody who would want to take that from you would be of the human mindset of saying, damn, here, like you said, and I want you to understand that at the end of the day, like what we do here is based off of the fact of the celebration of what yourself, what our anonymous guest, what whoever else we bring on here, because superheroes don't necessarily get celebrated when they don't have capes on. You know what I mean? And the fact that you got on and you spoke about what you went through, you spoke about something very real to many, makes you a superhero because you're able to move on. And some of your pieces, for the most part, like my brother was talking about the Friends. I want to talk about Friends real quick. So we're gonna go down some breaking down bars too, just to kind of see like mentally where you were, where you at.
Yes, that's what we
definitely
want. We got to break it down.
So yo, when it comes to Friends, I don't know how or why, but that poem blew the frick up on my YouTube page. Like that poem, like I had never actually read that poem outside of that day that I wrote it, and I filmed it. Like I didn't think like all the poems on my page, like you, and that's one thing about art. Like once you make it, it's no longer yours. Once you share it, it's now the audience's. And now like for me, I'm like, there's like other poems where I'm like, yo, like I crafted, like I went into the Rolodex for the double entendres, like worked on the schemes, like did the whole thing. And like those, those aren't the ones that pop sometimes. It's sometimes just the simplistic thing of touching somebody's emotional landscape where they're at. And that's why like art is so interesting, because like you never know how somebody will respond to it. You just have to be willing to share it and see what the world will give back to you with it. So, yeah, man.
One thing that we haven't, I haven't seen is how many views do you say? Let's say how many views have you gotten on one piece, the most, and then let's say how many views have you now gotten total? Have you seen that change since the Go Buzzer moment? Talk to me. Talk to me.
Jesus Christ, yes. So like the most viewed video I ever had on YouTube before AGT was my first ever YouTube video, a poem entitled I Love You. It's like a horrible rendition of it because it was like early on in my poetry days. But like, when you start out, you probably have like your largest support ever when you first start because everybody's super hyped for you. And then as you keep going, people are like, oh, you still doing that little poetry thing?
Yeah.
Cool. And they always throw the little in front of it. And so, but nah, so like that one had like 2,000 views. I posted Tick on the Friday after AGT happened, and within like 24 hours, it had like 5,000 views. Nice. So like my average view count on my videos before AGT was around like 87. My average view count now is in the like 900 range.
And a few thousand on a few.
Oh yeah, and a few thousand on the view. You know what I mean? So and then like I went from 3,000 followers on Instagram to 14,000. I went from 62 followers on Twitter because I never used Twitter to over 1,600. Went from like 3,000 people on Facebook to 6,000 people. So like numbers all dramatically climbed. And I can't say a whole lot about it, but I can tell you this. After my next performance, I'm highly anticipating getting both an influx of fans and a small outflux of fans who aren't going to be too happy with me. But
I like that. This is exclusive.
Hey, and Pete, hey, there's an update though, because you don't got 14,000. You got 16,000 on followers now.
There you go. There you go. Brandon, I got a quick question for you.
16,000
on Instagram.
Yeah.
When the frick?
We're out there, brother. Yeah. You out there? Just you know what it was? Is you being on SoundMinds right now, man. The last 34 minutes, they seen you on here. It was like, yo, we gonna bump that another 2. I got a quick question for you, brother. In the same vein, friends. If I'm being honest, I don't really have friends. At least not now, anyway. Funny that you say that about the followers, right, and the views. Is that the same for your friends, for your acquaintances? Have you now noticed people come out the woodwork to now all of a sudden become a friend that you didn't have before?
Oh, easily, man. That always happens. Always. And here's the interesting part too. I got that golden buzzer in March, right? The episode didn't air till July. So like I was golden buzzer Brandon since March and didn't nobody know it but me. So like it's a big metaphor for the idea that you have to value yourself high enough before anybody else values you. But also, as soon as the moment happened, people were like, why aren't you like cheering and celebrating and crying and all this stuff? And I'm like, dog, that's 4 months old. You're now the only person who's seeing me as golden buzzer Brandon. I've seen myself as this before the buzzer, when the buzzer happened, and after the buzzer happened. And so it's one of those things where like you really get to like I had 4 months to really look and examine how people were treating me and interacting with me. And then when the moment happened, it's now like, okay. But here's a beautiful blessing though. I tried out for the show back in like 2017. Didn't make the show at all. And 2017, Brandon, would have been bitter. I would have been upset. Would have been like, oh, I would have been on like social media like, oh my gosh, like, oh, you guys want to come support me now? Oh, that's how y'all feel? Okay, cool. Y'all hop on the bandwagon when it's popular. But 2020, Brandon, is like, yo, you showed up to the party. Congratulations. I'm happy you're here. Now, there's a tribe, there's an inner circle that you don't get to be a part of. Like that's sacred, that's divine, that's part that you don't get to partake in. But like the hors d'oeuvres and all the stuff on the outside,
They don't
like,
get
oh,
to
yeah,
come on the SoundMinds podcast with you.
You know what I mean? Like it's like, yo, fam, like this, like the outskirt stuff, like, yeah, y'all can participate, but like making decisions, like being intentionally close with like the family and stuff like that. Nah, bro. Like you had your opportunity for that. You elected not to. That's cool. But I'm not going to denounce you from being able to
That's a
support and be a
perfect
part of
segue into this next segment. So now that you in our constellation and we're in your constellation, we like to say, you know, no hate and show appreciation. You a star, we a constellation. And if you even look at how the stream is set up right now, it looks like a constellation. By the way, if people are texting you or tweeting you and DMing you like me right now and saying they're having troubles getting on, I just had a trouble getting on. I don't know if we're getting more people than usual or someone's trying to hack the joint, whatever. Tell them to go straight to our YouTube channel. Go straight to our YouTube channel, SoundMinds Hip Hop YouTube, and they can watch the stream and comment live there. Go straight to our YouTube channel, SoundMinds Hip Hop, and comment live there. The links that we sent out, apparently something isn't working with them. But from now on, I'm about to introduce a very special surprise guest, and these questions are going to go back and forth because I think it's really interesting to see both of y'all who was like almost in a different dimension having a similar experience. One as a woman, one as a young man, one is before having kids, one is just having had kids, one in an American space, but that is notoriously mostly white, but definitely making efforts to include black. One is a place that's notoriously black, and if you white and you go in that space, salute you because you gotta have a good sense of humor and thick skin, right? One who did this before in a space where none of these shows really was spoken word itself and poetry itself wasn't even a thing. In fact, this sister right here was one of the people that first appeared in movies and films about the genre, both documentary and major motion picture, right? So in so many ways, y'all had this same experience and a different experience. So just be aware of that, audience. You're about to see futuristic 2020 only possible via the SoundMinds podcast. And with that, let's introduce this sister. Please show your beautiful camera so we can see the gorgeous, dazzling Orisha goddessness that the ancestors have dreamt of. This is my big sis, Jessica Care Moore. I first saw her not on YouTube. So I'll do the back and forth. I saw Brandon on YouTube. My wife said, "Yo, this dude just won America's Got Talent with the dick," right? Now at that point, I was a kid in my mom's house, back to Jessica, and I'm sitting here with my elbows on the floor, and I'm looking up at the little TV, and I'm up way past my bedtime, and I love this show, right?
You were not that young.
I love this show.
You weren't that young. You weren't that young. You better stop making me that old.
We getting younger. We getting younger. You look younger than me. What you talking about? You look younger than me. Talking about. And I'm looking at the TV, and I see this sister come on the stage with a straight face. Like, she not laughing, she not shucking and jiving, she not five dudes in a quintet with silk suits singing about Jesus, which is no disrespect to Jesus, but it's to say there was a certain paradigm, there was a certain way that you won that show. And if you didn't win that show, the crowd was like, "Hi, my name is Boo!" And we love to watch the Sandman take you off. The boo wasn't even the best part. The best part was the Sandman. He came with a broom and took your behind off. So she came on with a straight face, like, I'm looking like I'm supposed to be here. What's good, y'all? So we looking back at her like, okay, what's good? And I'm like, I've never seen this before. Because even then, before I was into understanding the industry or anything, I knew. Right? Like, we have these unconscious images of what's supposed to be in that space, unfortunately. And I don't want to go through the whole story, but let's just say at the end of that poem, it was
Black Statue of Liberty.
The Black Statue of Liberty, and then came back and did Black Girl Juice, and then came back, and it was like, it's what we were just talking about with you, Brandon. It wasn't funny. It wasn't entertaining like fire spitting, and no disrespect to that, but it was something that was needed. Just like those parts of our psyche need to be validated, these parts need to be validated too. We don't just need to hear men talking about Black women are beautiful. We need to see the simplicity of a beautiful, amazing, intelligent, just things that we don't need to do adjectives as men. We just need to see the sister. You understand? And she showed us, and she showed other women what that was. Right? So she came back twice. She came back 3 times. End of the day, they was like, we cannot keep bringing you up here because you keep winning. And this show is supposed to feature different people to get a chance to win it. So we gonna go ahead and make you the youngest Apollo legend ever. And that's how she became 5 times in a row and became the youngest Apollo legend. You talking about with people like James Brown and on down the list. But just giving this intro. That's right. That's right. So just giving this intro, rounding this intro, I do want to say she is a poet, she is an author, she is an activist. For others who know about poetry, you know that Saul Williams was seen as one of the brightest stars as well in the poetry scene. Starred in the movie Slam Major Motion Picture, which brought poetry into a real life context. Jessica featured in this film as well. Saul Williams was there in the movie.
I published his first book. That's my brother.
I was about to say that.
Yeah.
I was about to say that.
Talking about me, Kaim. I want to talk to this brother real quick. People can Google me and shit.
She said stop. She said stop talking about me, man.
I'm good. Y'all better Google me.
No, I'm gonna say one thing though.
Yeah, damn. I need that type of intro.
People were not publishing Black women like that, and I was hearing that Black women did not get published. And this sister was getting publishing offers, and she started her own publishing company, More Black Press, to this day, which has published so many poets, including her own Alphabet versus the Ghetto, Legend of Jesse James. She could hold her own with Alice Walker and the greats that we respect, as well as the rappers. She's featured on Nas's album, so many other MCs' album, Young Jeezy. I could go on, and I know she's humble. She don't want me to say this, but she's from Detroit too, so she's not that humble. She's not that humble, y'all. But I do want to say, people was not publishing books like that, and she took it like a mission. Nobody told her to, and she really realized, I need to create an institution that people will understand that our books are in print. So we need to not just get caught up in the performance. Before we go on to this conversation, I really wanted to say the importance of that. Shout out to our brother Wordsworth, who was on the last season finale. He just dropped a book as well.
My brother.
Jessica is really a pioneer in people who can spit, also putting the words in print. Okay, I'm gonna shut up, but you know I could go on about you. This intro could be 2 weeks.
Okay,
Stop playing with me.
I needed to stop.
I'm gonna say one thing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna quote Nia Long when she talked about most recently in like an interview. She was saying like her manager came out and said, "Yo, like Black women are popping right now. Like it's time to hit the iron while it's hot." And she's like, "Well, Black women have always been popping. What are you talking about?"
Come on now.
Like so the fact that you pioneered it and pushed it out there is just indicative of the fact that you've always been that.
She founded Black Women Rock, y'all. She founded Black Women Rock. She puts other women on the stage, and men are invited to participate and support. But women are on the stage.
Kaim, listen, you better stop talking about me. So Brandon, just congratulations to you on your win. It's good to see a poet, you know, on that stage that I don't watch often because it's not that interesting to me. So, and I didn't even know about your win. Actually, my brother Kaim put me up on it. And I was like, yo, man, because poets are really the most needed artists and the most underpaid. So I love to see poets, you know, you got a family, like, you know, anything that would help a poet or a writer help their life, you know what I mean, move forward faster, because it's not like we don't get it easy. And the reason why I'm still able to have a living for 25 years in this work is because I'm an institution builder. It's because I built institutions. So the advice that I would give you is like, haters gonna be there. People were. I was from Detroit, and I came to New York, and I peed all over that. I mean, I'm saying, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't from Harlem or Brooklyn or none of that shit. You know what I mean? I was from Detroit.
talk, man. Talk that talk.
In New York, and I was like, I was performing poetry at hair shows in Detroit. I was performing poetry at bars. You know, I had dope dealer brother friends of mine coming out to, like, you know, poetry shit. Like, we didn't have all these coffee houses, you know, so I had to always do non-traditional spaces. So when I moved to New York, and Maurice Dwyer, I have to shout out, who came up to me, saw me at Brooklyn Moon Cafe. I was one of them poets. I mean, you're 28, so I got you by a couple. But I was around like Saul Williams, Willie Perdomo, you know, those folks. But I came to New York looking for like Reggie Gaines, who had just done Bring the Noise, Bring the Funk. Like, I was in search of culture and connecting with the poets. And so just know that you're not on an island. You know, it's been people out here doing this work. And what I understand is that, you know, there's a woman, the people who took, the reason why I take care of other people and why I started publishing other poets is because people like The Last Poets and Gil Scott-Heron were and my friends. And I got to perform with Gil Scott-Heron and The Last Poet. Sonia Sanchez is a dear friend of mine. And, you know, Nikki Giovanni, like people who are 30 years older than me, right? 34 years, who have been doing it since they were in their 20s too, right? And that makes you, just protect, institution build. And I used to talk about my elders a lot, even when I was 28 and 20. I always talked about the Black Arts Movement writers and the Harlem Renaissance writers. And people say I'm name dropping, but it was so important for me to know that I'm not just something that came from somewhere. So those people who saw your American Got Talent, maybe their minds were blown because they ain't never heard a poet before. You know, never heard a poet, a Black man that can speak with eloquence like that on the mic and don't need a beat. But we know we possible, and we know that we've been around since the beginning of time. Poets and griots predate hip hop. So we are the storytellers. We're the ones, you know, who have the connection to the people. And so these TV shows are out of touch. And so it's really beautiful to see someone that's in touch with community, knows who he is, and is saying something that's blowing their minds back, because, you know, with us in our true essence, being our true selves, being authentic is mind blowing. Yeah. For me, it's like, peace. Yes, brother. Of course. You know what I'm saying? We know who we are, but it's just that the light isn't always shining on us. So I'm just grateful that you had the courage, you know, to take it to a stage like that. And I had the same courage for the Apollo. Like no stage with Black folks I'm scared of, but I ain't scared of no stages with no people anymore. You know what I mean? I was nervous, but not in a way that I was scared. I ain't never scared, you know. But this work is legacy building work, and we have, you know, and know that there's lots of other voices that are coming after you that are going to be, you know, how about this? I'm not even on YouTube. Like, I got a YouTube channel. I know.
Because everybody know you cut somebody.
Yeah, I'm yeah. No, shut up. No, I just grew up with 5 brothers.
Okay, so let me. We're gonna ask some questions back and forth. Like I said, each of us got some questions for you. These are gonna be fast questions, but we're gonna start with some light ones first, and then some more challenging ones.
May I
So
make a comment?
both of y'all got to be up close with people. Oh yes, sir. Yes, sir.
No, and I wanted to say thank you, Jessica, for that so much. Because truly, I try to acknowledge this as much as possible. Like the work that I do on stage is built off the backs and labor of the poets and the griots who came before me. Like there's no Brandon Leake without you. There's no Brandon Leake without Langston. There's no Brandon Leake without Saul. There's no Brandon Leake without even the current Rudy Francisco. Like there's no Brandon Leake without those people. The Maya Angelou. Like despite how people like to try to cause friction between page poets and stage poets, there's no Brandon without them.
We do all of it. You can write books and make records. I do it.
You know what I mean? Like there's no distinction. Like there's no ability for me to be where I'm at without those people. Like in the same way, there's no Brandon Leake without a Tupac. Like
come on, me either.
So
yeah. Ooh, Tupac, Lord have mercy. And then also, it's those
real quickly, I want to say,
we see your hand.
Yo, you got a
no, go ahead.
Hand,
Jessica, go ahead. I want to.
No,
was that like?
No, I wanted to say real quickly. I wanted to say.
Is he breaking up?
Real quickly, the beauty of the fact that here it is, a young. You guys hear me? I wanted to say the beauty in the fact that, a young black poet from Detroit comes to New York, takes over the stage. You know what I'm saying? Brandon going to America's Got Talent, like Jessica was saying, that's not a show that's for us, right? Not in all reality, it's not a show that's very much, it's not something that we all kind of relate to, because we expect the little kid who jumps over buildings to win the competition and say, what next flip can they do again? And there's no disrespect to that show. It's just the fact that the two of you breaking the mold and creating a door where it wasn't there before. You know what I mean? And for the most part, Apollo then, you had your poets. You had poets go on there and perform before, but never was it a young woman, especially out of New York, to come over to do it 5 times and say, hey, you know what? We just gonna have to retire you. And it was never a young black man to come on, a man of color to come on and spit about his pain or even do spoken word when they said, oh, I never, he did it in a cappella. And I'm like, yeah, that's what poetry is. You know what I mean? So, but the fact that the both of you were able to build and construct something that others after you can sit there and say, oh, wow, there is an opportunity for me. I can actually do this. And that's powerful beyond measure because truth. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say for Brandon, I don't know if you are aware, but I'm on the Grammy committee right now. So we're trying to working with my brother Jay Ivy out of Chicago, who I'm sure you know who Jay Ivy is.
Yo, Jay is dope. I love Jay.
That's my whole heart, right? He's like my son's one of my son's barbers. But Jay and I are working. He's heading a committee. I was with New York, but now I'm on the Midwest chapter. So I'm back in Detroit for the Grammys, trying to get the spoken word category to change so they don't give it to audiobooks. Like Michelle Obama just won the spoken word Grammy, and I respect to Michelle Obama, but she should they should change the category to call it audiobooks, books on tape. That's what that is. And spoken word wasn't the title that I used when I won I was just a poet, and that's kind of where I ride. Like I like being called a poet. And we could talk offline why I decided to go that route. And it's really because I started traveling to white universities, and I had to force these white people to call me a poet because they didn't respect the spoken word was something like it was so performance focused that they didn't give the same respect as poets. And so I made them be like, no, I'm a poet, just like Emily Dickinson, T.S. Eliot, and all these white people you put in revere as like the creme de la creme of writers. I'm one of them. I just don't look like that. And so I have my own political reasons to focusing, but I understand poetry and performance. I work with a full band. I got a jazz soul project. I got rock and roll.
I never knew that.
But spoken word in the Grammys, we're trying to change that category so someone that's doing what you do and what we do, right, can actually get the award instead of Michelle Obama reading her book. Because we're not going to beat Michelle Obama reading her book, but we can beat her at poetry. You know what I'm saying? And so that there is a spoken word event that's happening. I think it comes on. I can't keep up with stuff, but I think it's coming on. It might come on tonight. I swear to God. But it's something. If you look at the Grammys on Facebook, they're live streaming this thing. And we should stay in touch so that when opportunities like that happen, then I can pull you into that loop to do stuff together.
Oh yeah, I'll send you.
I'm gonna give y'all each other's contact info after this too, if y'all don't mind. But this is one of the things that I was gonna lead into. So it's beautiful y'all just did it, which is, you know, Big Sis giving you advice on things to do to sustain this win outside of what the public sees, right? Because they don't see the hard part of the sustainability. They think you just got it made when you're on the platform. But also, in exchange for that, before I get to my fun question, can you give Jessica some advice about what perks are you experiencing right now as the recent guy that got the gold buzzer? Are there any? Because there got to be some. What perks can you tell Jessica that, like, okay, I'm in this moment right now, and I will be working on sustainability, but I'm riding on this? Is there? Because we know what the golden buzzer means. You don't have to. You're not in the same realm as other winners, right? You're basically guaranteed to be on a certain stage and have certain benefits. Share some of those with us. What are some of these things that you have access to now that the beautiful America's Got Talent crew is honoring you with and making sure that you have the privilege to enjoy, not just to use you, that we know you're not just being tokenized, but actually honored, my brother.
Exclusive.
So essentially what happens with the golden buzzer is I get to skip the whole second round of the show. So what's coming on this Tuesday is an episode called Judge Cuts, which anybody who did not get a golden buzzer now has to use extra material to go out and go do stuff. For me, I have deep pockets. I've written so many poems, memorized enough poems to where like I can go up there and do that. But now I don't necessarily have to burn really great content that I could save for a live show to get to the live show. So that's a really great perk. Another thing that, like, outside of the show, I just get to charge more money to go do what I do.
Come on now.
Like,
I know that's right.
Like, a college reached out to me and I pretty much like tripled how much I asked for before. And they said yes immediately. And I was like, damn, I charged too low.
Charge more.
I'm like, so like every time I'm adding some more dollars to it so that way I can get more. I'm like, yo, I'm finna start paying like my entire house stuff, like for the entire month with like a singular performance. Like we about to get this thing knocked out. But no, and so like that's been dope. I'll say one beautiful thing. I have not received any woman hitting me up to try and get with me. Like that has been such a blessing for me.
Well, I just started following you on Instagram, and you put that you a wife and got a baby, and you're doing the right thing. Family man like, on the Instagram.
Yeah. I'm like, yo,
the branding is right. The branding is set up right.
Hit me up talking about, oh my gosh, like when you come to my city, like can we do like a private session, like writing workshop thing? Be like,
Brandon, so you don't know. So welcome to my world, Brandon, where brothers hit me up.
I was gonna say, I know you get that.
Oh my God. Block. I be blocking. It's cool. I be blocking.
Like, I just want to shout out some of our viewers, Top from the Bush, Lucy.
Now, like, all the unsolicited pictures and dudes like, hey, yo, man, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'll just try to shoot my shot. Be like, no, fam, no.
One of our dope followers.
I'm not interested after the buzzer.
So one of our dope followers has a suggestion. She says, from now on, when people ask what your price is, you say, what's your budget? So shout out to Lucy for that. You're absolutely right, Star.
That's always a big question I ask, because I'm like, yo, how much are you working with for both like big and especially small events? Like I try like a group of mothers out in the Bay Area want me to come speak to their kids. And I'm like, I know they ain't got like my actual budget in their pockets to come have me out. So I'm like, yo, how much you working with? And then I'll be like, all right, cool. Like, can you work with me and meet me here? type of a thing. But like with a big event, I throw out a bigger number than what I'm anticipating in hopes that they'll say no, and then we can negotiate down. Like that's kind of how I go with it now. Be like, yo, like, and this is like an outlandish, like completely unreal number. And then I guess it's not completely unreal because I'm gonna get this money in like the next couple months. Like say like, yo, you want me to come out and do 20 minutes, 10 grand, like pay me that much. Right.
The thing is, what I learned is that you don't like. I don't tell people you're not paying for. And it's a Miles Davis, real cool Miles Davis quote that I'm probably gonna mess up. But it's you're not paying for the amount of time. You're paying for the shit that I did that to make you call me. And so exactly. I don't care if I'm there for a half an hour. But I'm an activist. I have said I'm zoomed the hell out during pandemic. I've said yes so much that the rest of August. I told everybody I'm turning down all online performances because learning how to making people pay me what I get paid when I show up to do a Zoom call is something, people are not respecting that space. And it's been a real teaching experience, growing experience for people, even at like Harvard University and other places where I had to push back and say, listen, I'm showing up. This is my energy and time. If y'all want me for an hour to be on some panel, y'all got to pay me. You know what I mean? And I know I'm not flying there, but I'm still exhausted. I still got to look, I'm a woman. I still got to put on lip gloss and figure out an outfit. Like, and then it's just my energy.
And you were going to pay my travel anyway. Like Absolutely. Now you don't have to pay to travel. You were going to pay me for what I'm contributing to this event regardless.
Yeah, exactly. You don't got to put no hotel, right? No plane ticket. So it should be extra money.
All right. Now, I'm cutting y'all. I'm sorry, I got to cut y'all. I would see when we do podcasts, we try to get questions where we're like, how do we get them to really go deep and answer? Y'all over delivered on that so much. Y'all actually telling people too many secrets right now. So we it's supposed to be everybody clap it up for how they sharing the Kaumba. You know what I mean? Like thank you. This is what artists should be doing, and this is what y'all doing. Hit the like button. Please pound this. Rashaman, Light, and myself is each gonna ask you like a fun question that both of y'all could go back and forth on. Then after that round, we'll each ask you like a more serious question and so forth. I know your time is precious, speaking of which, so I can't do 25 every extra minute, so we're gonna try to stay on schedule this next 20 minutes, all right? That's 25 million, by the way, for those who didn't know. We gotta pay 25 million every extra minute. Get your budget right. You can't be the SoundMinds Sunday Podcast. But this is the first fun question. You got Sofia Vergara, who was like very moved when you won, Brandon. You got Miss Shepherd on your show, Jessica Apollo back in the days. You got, of course, Simon Cowell, who's known as like the person who's a mainstay, but it's also been under a lot of controversy with Gabrielle Union and others lately, being accused of racism, patriarchal, megalomaniac type stuff. Jessica, you've got Steve Harvey, who's also been accused of being a male dominating so-and-so, but also like we love him in the Black community as well. What was it like? what was it like for you after you won, meeting these people that day, and then in the days to follow, like now, do you have relationships built with them? Are the relationships different than they initially treated you? How's that growing? And I'll start with you, Brandon. Sophia, Howie, Simon, what's it like?
I'll keep it short. I have zero relationship with any of them currently. They're not allowed to because they're judges on the show, and if they're at all compromised,
conflict of interest,
that judgment, then it that makes the show feel less real, which all of it is real.
That's real.
However, the moment interacting with them, probably the funniest part was when Simon said, because like they didn't show all of it, but he said like, I don't really understand the poetry. And I was like, oh, well, yo, like this is gonna be great because I'm assuming you're imagining I'm gonna do like some Shakespearean-esque thing for you right now. And that ain't gonna be what you get from me right now. You're gonna get this real, in the words of Loaded Lux, you're gonna get this work. And we're about to really do this. So yeah, but no, and then that was cool, but probably even cooler than that was Howie Mandel actually came up and gave me a fist bump and a hug backstage during a pandemic, and he's a major germaphobe.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
I heard that too. That means a lot. That means a lot. What about you, sister? What was it like in that moment, and what kind of relationship afterwards?
The moment was surreal. It was crazy because y'all know. So where they shoot the Apollo, I don't know how they do America's Got Talent, but they do like 3 shows in one day. So I won for 3 weeks. So it was 3 shows in a row, and then I came back the next day and won 2 more times. And then they decided that while I was getting dressed for the 6th win, they came back, the producers, and said, "No, we're going to retire you, and we don't," because they didn't quite know what to do with me after 5 weeks. Because they changed the rules even because they had never, I don't know, one had won that many times, not doing anything. And so they knew I was about to get a lot of television exposure. So I was on, that was like the last week of 1995 and all of January 1996. That was all me on the Apollo. And so yeah, Steve Harvey, they were happy. They were cool. I'm cool. So I know Ray Chu and the crew. I know Ray Chu, the musical director. He's amazing. I've done shows with him since then in Detroit. He did a big show here. A tribute to Aretha Franklin that I was a part of. Saw Steve Harvey in LA years ago. I was doing the event. And he's just acting like a nut. I'm cool with Cedric the Entertainer. And so Cedric was like, "Steve, be quiet." He was just saying like, you that girl from the Apollo, because I look different, because I had like my little earthy look at the Apollo. And in LA, I had like a little pink hot dress on, some high heels and a long ponytail. Yeah, what kind of car you drive now? He was just acting crazy. But he promised me if I ever needed him, that he would be there and I could always come on his radio show. And he actually, when King won the Night Arts thing, he actually shared, my son was the youngest. Brandon, my 13-year-old is a son, is a poet. And he does all kinds of stuff, but he's a really good poet. He's just in denial because, his mama poet, so he trying to fight against it. We got to go get him. But he was the youngest Night Arts winner for his 12 and under super cool poetry open mic. And Steve Harvey shared his story, and like 20,000 people, ended up like liking that and sharing. It was crazy. And Steve did that. So yeah, I mean, and Kiki Shepard, I've seen her. Kiki Shepard brought me on the show with Mike Epps, the comedian. We did a show together, and Kiki actually promoted that show. So I'm in touch with them folks, and Maxine actually, Lewis, who booked me for the show, is my dear friend in Harlem, and I love her to pieces. And she's the real person that put me on, the casting director. She's responsible for a lot of that talent. So, yeah.
So it ain't no drama, it ain't no tea, it ain't no excuses about not stepping up and doing your thing here on this show from the West to the East, because like they've said, when they made a difference, when they broke through just being another token person, they pulled these people out of just treating them like token relationships. I'm gonna go to Light and Rasham, and they're each gonna ask you another light, fun question like that.
Okay.
Yeah, now we gonna get heavy with some of these questions. They not all gonna be fun. I will say real quickly, Jessica, my daughter, I will say that there's been a massive change from what Apollo once was to what it is. And no disrespect to Apollo, but even like, my daughter won, she got the audition and she got in, and, we were excited. And when I seen the crowd, when she actually performed that day, I said, wow, this is not what I know Apollo to be. You know what I mean? So I will say that. So there's been definitely changes. And that was years ago, but nonetheless, so that's a tidbit. But I do want to jump into some of the bars, some of the things that you laid down. Jessica, I am going to start with you. Okay. You have I Am a Hip Hop Cheerleader, probably one of my favorites that you did in Def Poetry. I got another question for you later on. So you say on there, right? You said, I'm a hip hop cheerleader. I buy all your records despite your misogyny.
Not looking for the blind.
That touched me so different because, please and it's funny, right? Because hip hop, the culture, is for us. It's for people of color who want to speak upon their plights, who want to speak upon living in the projects and having to see certain things. But then we do have so many powerful voices, right? But yet even the most powerful voices, and some refrain from it, But even so, some of our most powerful voices, especially now, even with what they touch upon, you still hear that misogyny. You still hear the B word. You still hear the disrespect of queens. When it's just kind of like, damn, when can we get it where we stand as a people to stand as the forefront of what a culture should look like without putting down our queens, though?
Yeah, it's a problem. I mean, I watched the Snoop versus DMX. I watched some of it. I was out in Yellow Springs with my hip hop family, with Talib Kweli and Dave Chappelle and Jerobi from Tribe Called Quest, and we've created kind of a sanctuary in Yellow Springs, Ohio during the pandemic. Davis created it, and we kind of just answered the call by showing up. And we were watching it out there, and people had a lot to say. I mean, so I'm cringing watching it. I'm from Detroit, so I was a huge NWA fan. I love West Coast music just because Detroit, we kind of like Compton without the palm trees. So I understood, that those dudes were from a certain thing. I mean, I'm a huge DJ Quick fan too. And this man, come on, that's like misogyny all over the place. And so, but I didn't know even how to spell misogyny when I was listening to that shit. And so I had to grow up as a woman, but I was a queen by 19. Let's be clear. I was clear that the bitches and hoes that Snoop was talking about was not me. So I wasn't personally offended by it then, because I was like, oh, he's talking about them people that he around. Because I was clear that I wasn't a bitch or a hoe. But I had to grow up enough, and I have grown enough to understand that it's not cool. You know what I'm saying? It's not for women just to be objects in every song and just to be something to throw around to your boys. It's not what's up. And so, yeah, I mean, misogyny is going to be an issue, but it's not just in hip hop. It's in rock and roll. I do Black Woman Rock because rock and roll has been taken over by white boys, and Black women created rock and roll, and the shit is on our backs. And so it can be any, whether you work in corporate America or you work as an artist, as a woman, and I say Black woman, I don't use people of color, just as a Black person and person that's conscious and walks around in the energy of I'm clear that I'm a queen. So I didn't have no issues in Detroit. Brothers wasn't calling me bitches because I didn't, there was a certain way that I presented myself where they knew that wasn't what you call me. You know what I'm saying? And not that I've never been called one, but it doesn't last long. You know what I mean? It doesn't last.
And that's, for the most part, the most powerful thing that you said was the fact that you, as a queen, acknowledge the fact that you don't fit in those categories, right? And it's funny.
I don't really bobbing my head to that shit either. You know what I mean? Right, and I catch myself. Right. I mean, Dre's beats were crazy. It's the duality. It's the double consciousness of living and being Black in this country, where you have a culture that you love that doesn't always love you back. And that's just the reality. For Black women, we love hip hop. We ride for brothers, have bought the music. Even when it wasn't applauding us, still supporting the culture, because you're like, well, I'm understanding because I know this brother been to jail, this brother been to whatever, and he's, at some point though, you turn 40, you know what I'm saying? You come on, bruh, you know what I'm saying? Those brothers been all over the world now. You know what I'm saying? You can't tell me you can't just be calling women, because queens and seen Black women all over the world, the same way I have, and that everything comes through us. There ain't nothing better than us. And at some point, your music has to evolve. I would assume that they were doing their hits. I'm just talking about that one Leake versus DMX thing. They doing the hits. They doing the songs that everybody know. And they didn't censor themselves. They did it as it was. And so a lot of us who are well-read and have grown up and said, okay, now this is not, I don't accept this anymore. I'm definitely not rocking that in my house. My son ain't listening to that shit. You know what I mean? But I was a little girl. And I'm from Detroit. I was around street dudes all the time, even as a good girl that read books and nerdy. I was still around street dudes. And so, it's the balance, man. It's the beautiful struggle, as Talib would say. Go ahead.
Now I was going to say, for clarification, I love the line because it speaks upon how it sucks, but it speaks upon how women, there's a certain abuse that's allowed for women. And it's just kind of like the fact that you said, nah. And then, there was other parts that you said, I'll take your haze and tolerate your hoes. And, and it's just kind of like, at the end of the day, the beauty of what you said, especially being young, being at the Deaf Poets, speaking upon a culture that is ours, and still saying, hey, I'm supporting y'all, but check this here though.
Yeah.
y'all disrespectful. You know what I mean? So, and I think that
wasn't just for like the typical obvious targets. That was also for the so-called conscious rapper friends who were my people, who I came up with. I remember being on a spit kicker tour with Talib and Common and Mos, and they weren't putting me on the mic either. You know what I'm saying? Like, so Talib, it took to like, later in our friendship when I was doing a record and I brought it to his crib in Brooklyn and let him hear it. He was like, yo, what you about to do with this? And I was like, you Talib Kweli, what you about to do with it? And so I was being a smart ass, but then that turned into a record deal. Right. And that turned into him putting my album out, investing 3 videos in me and, putting me on tour with him all over the place. And so, yeah, sometimes they need to be checked too. Like even the most positive brother with all the good lyrics is still not doing the right thing. When if I have an opportunity to put somebody on, that's great. That's why I put Saul on, and I put Saul on and before anybody, because I saw that he was great and he was excellent. And I was like, we supposed to be, you see somebody that's black, like Brandon sees.
I was trying to tell them that
18, we supposed to be pulling them up.
That's crazy.
That's what we.
Jessica put out Saul's first book. I repeat, Jessica Care Moore Black Press released Saul Williams' first book. Check the history.
The seventh octave.
Rashaman, hold on one second.
That
I want
actually
Brandon to chime in on this question too. Oh, okay,
Yes,
okay.
of course.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to have Brandon chime in, and then I got a question for Brandon that kind of leads into Jessica Care Moore. So
And
I
Brandon,
would say,
obviously that's not your lyric, but as a father, what do you think of this idea of what you say in poetry regarding having fun in our culture and walking a line with disrespect? And you've already said, to your credit, you're being approached differently online. People are already seeing that you do not seem to be someone who degrades women.
Yeah, nah, man. I mean, like, I would never put any art out that's not representative of who I am as a person. You know what I mean? And as much as I grew up around that type of culture, I was never really of that culture. I was a kid who, single mother, born and raised in church. Like, you cuss, you get the piss slapped out of you inside the house.
Right.
Like it's crazy to me because we're gonna talk about the whole education thing, but like I had a kid who was a sophomore in high school who called his mom by her first name, and I was like, if I were to ever try to even utter my mom's first name as an adult, like what would happen to me? You know what I mean? And so like that type of, like, I listened to hip hop and I of course like bumped it, talked about it, but ever referring to a woman outside of her name was something that was so foreign to me as like a person, like something that I would actually go do. Which is why, like, if you ever listen to my poetry, I don't even know if you'll ever hear me curse really in my poetry. Like, it's a very rare occurrence, and it's never written into the poem. It's always just something that's like ad-libbed into the moment of how I'm feeling. And so like, yeah, like the misogyny of what occurs in those moments is something that like I don't participate in. I don't not perpetrate, but perpetuate into my art because it's not reflective of me. I'll reflect on it and talk about how it's affected me, how I grew up in a culture that was surrounded by that. I love Black culture, but Black culture has a lot of ugliness to it as well in those regards. I witnessed it firsthand with how my grandma was treated by my grandfather, how my mother was treated by my biological father, and then even my stepfather, and the dynamics of that. And not that it's exclusive to Black culture, but to say that it's not a part of it would be a lie. And so the way that I utilize my art is to do one of 3 things. It's either to express the reality of how things are going currently, to demand change for what's happening in the current, or to promote a better world for what it could be. but never to coincide negativity of what's going on currently in the populace. So I think that's an answer to your question.
No, most def, and to that is you're holding a torch in in your generation. It's really a level that now the younger generation can look up to. To see someone your age now winning, but at the same time doing it your way and being true to yourself and not representing nothing negative. And I want to ask about that growth in your spoken word, being that we have someone with history in the game, Jessica Care Moore, that has the history in the game. That, like, who do you contribute to your growth in spoken word throughout in our community, or even not in our community, just any of the greatest poets that you can list off the top of your head that contributes to you and your style and how you come about it?
Man, so I'll keep it short, because I could go on for days about inspirations that I've stolen from. Because here's the thing: when you first start out poetry or any art form, really, you're really just replicating other good artists that you saw come before you, and then trying to find your voice. So early on, I sounded like a bootleg Rudy Francisco, because that's just who I enjoyed. That's who I listened to. That's what I liked. But then as time went on, I got more cultured and listened to more people. So like you get a Talam Acey, who you end up listening to. You get a Portia out of Boston, who you end up listening to. I started, because and then you expand outside of that genre, and once you start developing a more poetic ear, you start listening to a Miseducation of Lauryn Hill from a different perspective of like, yo, like, what do I get from this outside of, that thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you gaining from this? So I would say Kendrick Lamar is one of my greatest influences. Absolutely love his music. And love how daring he is to be different from popular music and hip hop at the time, with a album like To Pimp a Butterfly or even Damn, and to be like, yo, like, I'm gonna be like very vulnerable with you. I would also say, of course, Rudy Francisco, just because I've dropped his name. Like, he was when I was doing poetry in college, getting started, and it was like a super white school, no other poets around. I would compare my work to his and be like, damn, I'm trash. And so like he was my measuring stick of what I'd compare myself to. Langston Hughes, I have a thick book of all of his work and just delve into it. And I remember the first time hearing I Too Am America and being challenged by that piece so heavily. Though people may never attribute him to being a spoken word poet or even a poet, the way he spoke in metaphors, Martin Luther King Jr. and how eloquently he would write. And if you read the I Have a Dream speech, how laced that thing is with metaphorical content, similes, and imagery is beyond me. And then I'm gonna give a more recent one, as well as also in the hip hop category. Oh man, damn. I'm blanking.
You got it.
It's self-suffice. It's all good. A lot of people forget my name. It's self-suffice, the rap poet.
She released an album entitled Eve.
Oh yeah,
Rhapsody.
I was just at her concert. Yeah, shout out to.
I was thinking No Name for a second because of the whole No Name.
I knew he was saying Rhapsody. I wanted to say it. Rhapsody.
No Name is going up because J. Cole thing,
I
right?
remember being. Yeah, because I was thinking No Name. I'm like, that's not who I'm thinking of. Though No Name is also dope. But Rhapsody, I remember hearing Rhapsody on To Pimp a Butterfly, and I was like, yo, she is dope. And then going back and looking at her catalog, and I'm like, yo, like, how is she not being recognized in the same respects as a Nicki or a Cardi for the labor and work?
Because.
And I mean, and we know
she got clothes on.
No, it's not even that. She's brilliant, and she's complete. Her lyrics are. She's from she's from me. So that's why, you know what I'm saying? Reason why I didn't I want to correct my brother Kaim that I didn't get book deals after the Apollo. I got turned down by white publishing houses, and I started my own press because they didn't give me shit. They weren't trying to give money to no talking about Asada Shakur or Angela Davis on national television. No, Rhapsody been sweet, but it's other Rhapsodies out there, but they don't give them. They don't give those sisters the record deals.
I have a question, and in that regard, you know, you saying, you know, they want.
Hold on, real quick, Rob.
Piggyback on what she's saying.
Rob, real quick.
It just piggybacks on what she's saying.
Yeah. I just, whenever you can, Jessica, if you could give your list of people too, I would love to hear that. But yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, most def. In regards of you saying that they wouldn't give you the shot, you know, for speaking about what you would speak about, right? You know, like Brandon Leake, do you feel the same way of coming onto a greater platform like America's Got Talent? Like, could you had brought up something, you know, in the sense of like how you say it would, you know, it would go against the grain?
Man, I will say this. I will never have to endure the same trials and tribulations that a Black woman had to endure both during this time and also especially previously. Like, people, like, I would say like 90s era of like Black television is some of my favorite stuff to ever watch. But I think people misunderstand how hard the fight was to be able to get those types of people recognized outside of being Black television. And so like, I could more easily now go up to like an AGT and talk about this because it's popularized. Like Black Lives Matter is being adopted by Nike and all these other spots who are doing these things. So hopping on that is not necessarily problematic for them at this point. You know what I mean? But doing it back then would have been so much more difficult because now it's like, because like hip hop gets played at basketball games now. It gets played at football games. Like hip hop was never like if you watch Bulls games from like the Jordan era, hip hop was never played at none of them games.
No.
Like they played like like instrumental stuff, like all that like whack ass music. But like now it's gotten so ingrained into the culture of what American society is. Like we can now more easily begin to traverse our way into those doors. And it's built off the labor and work that other people did before us and knocking so much to the point where they ended up just knocking it down and being like, hey, we here. So, you know, what are we going to do about this?
And shout out to Allen Iverson, man. Like that, you know, shout out to the Fab Five from University of Michigan. My people, Jimmy Keith, Rose, Chris Webber, like them brothers, like, you know, who made hip hop cool. They changed the fashion game in the NBA. You know, like short shorts went to long shorts. You know what I'm saying? Like the shoes changed, like everything. And so, but everything that's the best of America comes from us culturally.
Yes.
You know,
can you speak about your list of influences?
Oh man, come on, listen. I mean, my list is long.
Well, we need it.
I'm gonna say Brandon's list. I'm about to say Brandon's people. Like
these the gems right here. These
are the top three. Top three.
I don't have no top three, but I can say like, you know, Gil Scott Heron, my album Black Tea, was for my Baba Gil Scott Heron, who was a master of balancing poetry and music. And I do a lot of music, so that was really important for him. So him and, you know, Sonia Sanchez, the last poets, Amiri Baraka, Jane Cortez, Lucille Clifton, Audre Lorde. You know, contemporary ones like Nikki Feeney, she's a monster. Ntozake Shange was a friend of mine before she passed. Ntozake changed my life with For Color Girls. I write choreo poem now. I write large scale techno choreo poems. I wrote a big one with all techno music, which is poetry and dance. And people don't know that it's poetry and movement together. So I do like a lot of large scale shows with my work. And so lots of whatever. I mean, all the Black arts movement writers, I'm forgetting Asha Bandeli, you know, one of my contemporaries, Willie Perdomo, Sahir Hamad, Saul Williams, like people that I published and I love. You know, I published Asha, but I looked up to her when I published her. Raz Baraka, who's our mayor of Newark, the poet's mayor, Newark, New Jersey, is a badass poet. But there's so many of us. There's a sister that, I mean, there's so, I can't, Basi. I got a crew, man, like Tony Medina. But the ones that really like, you know, and then as far as hip hop, you know, I loved MC Light, Queen Latifah. I love Chuck D and Public Enemy. I was a Tribe fan. Karis won. Rakim and I are friends. You know, are some good close associates, and we have a mutual respect for each other. And Rakim was like one of my favorite MCs of all time, and I consider Rakim a poet. And also Talib. You know, Talib is one of my. Just to me an incredible songwriter, and doesn't get the radio play. Never did that he deserves. And he put my record out. So shout out to men in hip hop. You know, that actually put women's voices forward. Nas was the first rapper that put me on an album, and I opened and closed Nas's album and on Nostradamus, and so and he didn't have to have me open and close it. You know what I'm saying? He said I want to be the first and last thing that people hear on the album. So
can I add one name to my list?
Yeah.
So one name I want to add to my list, and it's unconventional, but I know that you'll rock with this. Dave Chappelle is somebody who I study religiously.
Oh, come on. Yeah.
And because if you like Dave's intelligence behind his comedic timing, his comedic nature, all of those things, the writing behind all that is so beautiful. And like I've learned so much, like especially studying the two specials who came out before 826 and also in just listening to 826 itself. So you can tell Dave that he has a really big fan in Stockton, California.
Come on, hang out with us. I mean, you know, like that's the only stage I've done is that same stage that he did his show for George Floyd on is in Yellow Springs. So I performed there last month, and I did my poem I Can't Breathe from my book We Want Our Bodies Back, and I was like, you know, it's a comedy show, and I'm like, I ain't about to tell no jokes up in here. And Dave was like, do you? You know, and so I did I Can't Breathe, and people stood up, and I said, Dave came out to give me a hug, and I was like, I hope it wasn't too much. He said it was perfect. And Dave is intelligent, you know, and one of our brilliant, I mean, he's one of our legends that go down in history, but he's also recognizes other people's talents and gifts as well, right? And when people are in that space, that's why we all going. Man, you should come. You know what I mean? When it gets safer, you know, I don't know how long he's gonna do it for most of the summer, until he feels like he can't do it no more. And when the weather shifts, it's Ohio, so it's only gonna be pretty until. You know, for the summer.
I'll shoot you an email because I'll hop on the first flight.
That kind of reminds me. All right, I'm cutting y'all. Y'all got each other's contact. Y'all already, y'all good. But that reminds me of Baba Doon. You know, Abio Doon, Last Poet. Scott Perry used to look up to the Last Poets. You know, but Abio Doon been opening his own house. This dude probably been sampled more than anybody, aside from maybe James Brown in hip hop. He just opened his house, you know, uptown for the past 30, 40 years.
110 Side Drive. Come on now.
And he served up salmon and croquets and all that. Look, I want to be respectful of everybody's time. This has been so amazing and over delivering. I'm going to just go ahead and say that we family here. You know what I mean? Like, Brandon, that includes you, bro. And I don't say that lightly. Hearing your soul, the way you talk, your respect for the things that we hold dear, not just giving politically correct answers, but the way you talk about it, you family, bro. We love you. And thank you for being so in demand right now. You was real with me. You was cool with me. You're saluting what we're doing. We don't have a major platform. You know what I mean? So we appreciate you. And we see that genuineness. You family, you a star in this constellation. I'm going to tell you some of the things that I think you covered, so we didn't need to ask them. Y'all both are parents. Y'all both see your artistry as tied to your parenthood, not as one versus the other. Meditate on that if you're watching it. They both said that. You both shifted your role in schools, whether it be from teaching and studying to being a guest artist, or whether it be from being a guest artist to sometimes making enough money from people who have the funds so you can go in and do the occasional pro bono gig in the schools, right? So it's not just a matter of changing your prices one way or the other, but they definitely were able to say, I can charge more money on one hand, and I can reach more youth in a different way on the other hand. Yeah. And then third, like, I had to keep cutting them because they thoroughly answered this question. What are you doing besides what these platforms do? And if you're not seeing, they're treating each other with respect. They're saying, you know what? I respect you even when it's my show. I know somebody else is in the audience that's dope. You know what I mean? And I think that's what we call the torch versus the baton. If we continue to light each other's torches, then we all are not handing something down to someone. We're lighting it until we see again and continuing to know you're lighting other people's. One thing that I would like to get last words on before we go. We are in overtime.
Well, hold on before
right now.
Hold on before we do the last words, because it's important, right? It's two things. One, I have a theory. My theory is those who have worked with or in education or have worked with the youth or the community, there's a certain type of responsibility that we carry. So when we put art out there, those who work with the community and youth and our artists, there's more of a conscious responsibility that we embrace, where it's like Brandon kind of said earlier, I'm not going to put nothing that does not represent me in the best light or what I stand for. So my theory is educators are those that work with community, especially those who work with the youth, seem more consciously connected and responsible for what they put out as their art. Now, do you agree with that? And then there's also, as we bring on guests, there's something that we have the guests do. But I want to ask the both of you guests, do you feel like that is accurate?
Would you like to chime in first, or would you like me to?
You can go, Brandon.
I would say,
and you can at any point now as well.
Okay. I would say that is predominantly true, but I'd say it's also dependent on a person's moral character and fabric. Because I know a great deal of people who work with youth who are willing to compromise themselves for $1. And it takes a person who's understanding of what they're really in the work for. You know what I mean? And that uncompromising spirit to say, you know what, I'm willing to put morality over financial gain, which is like how we end up, like the opposition of that is how we end up with billionaires who like have so much wealth they'll never spend all of it in their lifetime, and then donate pennies to the dollar to other causes. What price are you willing to pay to grow? And so, yeah, for me, I would say that's most certainly true, but I've most certainly seen people who have compromised themselves for the sake of dollars.
Yeah, I mean, same. I mean, that's what I figured Brandon would say, probably the same. I feel the same way. And I mean, and I've worked, I'm teaching, I'm doing a residency with Grinnell College. I'm teaching We Want Our Bodies Back curriculum this fall, unfortunately, virtually doing a residency with them. But I've also worked, of course, in the high schools and inside of prisons and jails for many. And the thing is, when I'm in that space, I'm in that space. I do feel like I have the right as an adult to be an adult. And everything I do isn't for kids. Black Rock is a pretty racy show that we put a disclaimer on. It's nothing that Rihanna and Beyonce ain't doing, these young girls, but you know what I'm saying? But we do wear what we want, and we're definitely women, and I think I should be allowed to be that. And if I'm writing a children, my book is We Want Our Bodies Back isn't necessarily for your third grader, you know what I'm saying? But I can still talk to third graders. So, but yeah, I hold myself accountable. But I'm also not perfect, and I don't expect artists to be perfect. We're people, and we make mistakes, and we grow and learn. I learn a lot from being around kids and students. My girls are just they're so fast. The high school girls I've been around. I'm so grown where I say the word fast now in a sentence. And I wasn't that adult. I was such a little girl when I was in high school. I was still a little girl. And I even opened my book, saying that I was allowed to be a girl. I really grew up in a beautiful way. I had brothers and my daddy in my life, and it really shaped me as well and protected me. And I was allowed to be a girl, meaning like I was a virgin my whole 4 years of high school, and it wasn't like I was the ugliest girl in the school, but so I could have easily not done that. But I didn't even know if that was a big deal until I got around high school girls and my students started getting pregnant. And I was like, y'all, I was one of the most popular girls in the school, but I was a 4 varsity letterman, you know, and then I was the editor of the paper. I said, and all the boys liked me, but I wasn't into boys. Boys weren't my priority. And I didn't know that even was a big deal. It's just naturally, it just wasn't where I was at. And I obviously, you know, I got into boys later, but it was later, you know what I'm saying? And really, I could have waited longer to be 100. You know, it wasn't that deep. Yeah, and it's not that deep for me now. My focus is my work and my craft, my community, being a mother, and just holding myself accountable. So I try, you know, but my work is not always for every audience, but I have integrity, you know, and I feel pretty proud of myself to saying that I can wake up every morning proud of the work that I've given the last 25 years. So
may I give a comment?
And that's what, and for clarification.
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, and that's important. Like, we have tabs on our websites for reasons. Like, we have a kids section for kids. Like, we have like the adult section for adults. Like, we have like the midnight show. Like, kids ain't supposed to be at the midnight show. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then the second part is, you actually like enlightened me on something just right now. Like, for a very long time, I've always heard the statement like, man, like, how many boys have to grow up early and be men early? And I've never heard anybody say that about women. Like, how many girls have to become women so soon, so early, to where they lose their innocence and don't have to, and I'm not even just talking about sexually, but just like holistically as a culture. Like, how many of them have to grow up so quick to acquiesce for so many things, especially male ego and things of that nature. So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. And I think, you know, for the most part, the clarification in that was more so.
Hold up.
You speaking? Go ahead, Kyle.
1 2 1 2. All right. Speaking of a time for kids and a time for adults and responsibility and education, one thing we all know we do as educators is, if the educator in the room want to keep their class going because they so interested, they do that. So I wanna say, this is not going past 9 o'clock. Salute. I want to salute all the viewers. We have viewers who are going past a link that wasn't even working and finding ways to watch this live. We are hearing you. We're loving you. Thank you for sharing it. And you're saying you want this to keep going. That's not really up to me. And also, it would be the opposite of everything we're talking about for me to just impose that on our guests. Their time is precious. I was, and I am still going to say, we will be bringing. Yeah, when Jessica's ready, we will be definitely bringing her back as soon as possible. You know, when Brandon's ready, we will. And really, they each will get their own episode. This was really a moment where a young poet coming in can get introduced to someone who's been doing what he's doing. And this wasn't really about Jessica or Brandon. It was about the conversation with them. It was about showing you how Black artists really talk to each other when they care about the craft, they care about themselves and others. So don't feel like this is the end, y'all. Go buy their stuff. Go vote for them. She got records with Talent Quality's label. She is on the label. She has a book on Amazon. You know what I mean? Hit up America's Got Talent and say, this is the best thing I've ever seen in every season of your show. Please, and continue to encourage him having his voice beyond this moment, right? So
I mean,
I want to say that.
Keep on the show.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
So my episode will debut on September 1st. And in order for me to keep going, everybody, like, people have to vote for me to keep going. So like, if you literally want to keep hearing me, then you pretty much got to vote for me. So
let's keep you on there, brother.
Vote for the president. How do people vote?
Oh yeah, it'll all be online. Like, you can text vote, and there's no quota on how many times you can vote. It's like a little. You could also go to their website and vote. So all that, and I'll make sure.
But that's only when the show is live, right? They have to be watching when you're live on.
I think so, but I'll have details and I'll send it to you. Because
Send it to me.
I'm gonna be broadcasting all the rules like 2 weeks prior, so that way I can make sure everybody knows how it goes. Because I mean, there's different time zones and stuff like that too. So.
Okay, so
yeah, that's important to know. That's important to know.
Absolutely. So I want to ask a serious question, and then I want to try to end this out, 9:50. So this is really just, 2 minutes from each person.
8:45 right now.
Yeah, like I'm trying to do the impossible, and I'm already apologetic because we're in overtime right now, y'all. So please say thank you in the comments to them. They do not need to be here right now. Nick Cannon is not currently on America's Got Talent, but was. He's someone we can all speak about rather than addressing whatever's happening on the show now or was. He's a powerhouse. Right. And like Nick is one of the most approachable, likable, accepted Black bodies and voices and talents in the world while walking a dangerous tightrope of really bringing Black culture in a way that Black culture can understand and different Black voices. What does Nick Cannon, real quick, and again, we're going to have other episodes, y'all. What does Nick Cannon say real quick to you about what you can do? Not as an underground artist who's going to be grumpy and complain about the mainstream, and not as a super commercial artist who is going to completely sell themselves out and not use their platform. What does Nick Cannon say to you about what you can do and what you are moved to do in the limelight?
I just like to look at his abs on his Instagram page. So I'm gonna let Brandon answer. I don't have nothing deep to say about Nick. I pray the brother's all right. It's unfortunate he had to step away from his show because he made a comment that I would consider anti-Semitic based on him feeling like he didn't have enough information. Sometimes people say things they don't know that they're saying something anti-Semitic. I think that was probably the case. I don't think he's a malicious person. I like Nick Cannon. I think he's funny, he's talented. Not always agree with him, but again, I really like looking at his pictures on Instagram. So I'm probably biased to him because he's just like nice eye candy. He's a nice person though, from what I know. He's not a personal friend. And so I don't look to Nick Cannon. He's that one people I look to for like, what should I do? And what decisions I make. So I can't answer that honestly because I don't know. I just wish the brother the best because I think his intentions are in a good place. So
to quote Dave Chappelle, who cares what Ja Rule thinks at a time like this?
Right.
But no, if I could learn anything from Nick Cannon, it's that, and not just Nick Cannon, but people who have done similar things to like what Nick Cannon has done. Like I would look at, like for instance, like a Big Crit in the music industry, right? Success is in the eye of the beholder, because like Big Crit doesn't get the same acclaim as like a J. Cole or a Drake or even a Kendrick, but if you listen to what Crit puts out, then you can see that he's as successful as anybody that you would ever desire to listen to. Like Black Thought gets recognized by lyrics.
He's my favorite. Yes.
Because he gets recognized by lyricists, but in the public mainstream of hip hop, he'll never be thrown into that category of like GOAT status or something like that.
Ooh,
you know what I mean? So like what I can learn from Nick and people like that is that success is what you make of it. Because I mean, I don't need to be Brad Pitt level famous. I don't need to be that famous. Like I want to do what Dave Chappelle does and go grocery shopping. Like I want to be able to go do all that. Like I want to go to my kids' games and not have people do this with their cameras with me all day and like oogle me and ogle me like the whole time. Like I want to be able to just be a person at the end of the time. So yeah.
He's so famous. So they be doing that to him. He just don't take pictures with him. But you know, he's like the mayor of Yellow Springs and shit. So like, and they used to, and he lives there. He's from there, and they still be like, "Oh my god!" I mean, they still be, but the way he operates, you can tell like when people just kind of, I want to be as normal as possible. I would like to go to my coffee shop, you know what I'm saying, and get my coffee. And I wanted, and so that's important. It is difficult with fame. Fame is difficult in general. Like all these people knowing who you are, and that's why I don't throw stones, because those stones are so easily thrown at people like that. Nick is he quietly tried to have a couple Nick Cannon jokes, but as soon as he went back, he was like, I can't do a Nick Cannon joke, man. I love my brother. You know what I mean? But yeah, I just trying to stay the normalcy is a difficult balance, So I just when things happen to people like that, I just try not to. Kanye is another one, and that's a hard one, right? Because if you were a hip hop head, you thought Kanye, you loved him at one point, and some of the things he's done has people like really questioning or not loving him at all no more. They're like, he's canceled. I don't believe in cancel culture. I think it's really, really very, very toxic thing, talking about canceling people because we don't agree with people. And I also was probably, I don't like what Kanye West said about Harriet Tubman, but I know Kanye knows that that's not correct. He's saying something triggering and crazy. But I also don't think just because you're rich doesn't mean you're not mentally ill and don't need help. And I think that he needs help, and that a lot of us do. And I think that down the line, it'll be an interesting case study of what happens to celebrity, because celebrity is bullshit. All the celebrity, I know celebrities know me more than, you know what I mean? And it's not, they don't have better lives than I have. I know I've been around people with bigger houses. It doesn't make people happier. I'm clear, it doesn't, I know people with lots of cars, millionaires. It doesn't mean that they're not suffering with battling their own demons when y'all don't see them. And so cameras rolling, watching Kanye, West have a breakdown. Even though we weren't talking about him, we were talking about Nick Cannon, because I think Nick gonna be just fine. But watching Kanye, who I'm more worried about, right, having this breakdown in front of all these people, I'm thinking, I can always say, like, that was my husband, there would be a battle. I would be in front of the cameras. I would be blocking him. He'll be fighting me because I'll be pulling him off the stage. Like, there's no way I would let him put him. But when someone has that much money, you feel unstoppable. And it's so, so I'm just hoping the brother gets better, because we know he's a genius. We know he's brilliant as an artist, but everybody's struggling, everyone's struggling. A lot of people got bipolar disease. A lot of people struggling with schizophrenia, struggling with so much anxiety. And so I'm respectful of that space, no matter how rich somebody is in the public eye, that they all are people battling with real human issues. And so I send support and love to Nick Cannon, and also to our brother Kanye, and hoping that Kanye gets better, and that Nick made a mistake, and that, unfortunately he's paying for it in some way, but Nick could be okay, I think, too.
I just want to say LaShawn of Harper 860 is sending you love in the chat.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
LaShawn is the one who organized our city's Black Lives Matter street mural that, you are big enough for airplanes to see from above. And she said, yes, sis, you speaking, you're doing that. So I'm gonna hand it over to my co-host to let us not encroach on your time, but y'all have over-delivered, and we will have y'all back. And oh my God, y'all in the constellation. Can we get a Sound Minds?
Sound Minds.
We just ask y'all, when we say Sound Minds, we just want y'all to say one thing, okay, for us. I want you to say Sound Minds Sundays, and I want y'all to say, you don't want to miss these gems.
Do we say it at the same time?
That's what I was gonna ask.
We never did that before.
Yeah, let's do it on the three. Let's do it on the three. We're gonna say Sound Minds, and then do not miss these gems. 1, 2, 3. Sound Minds. Do not miss these gems. Let's.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, the delay is off on. Listen, I want to thank the both of y'all for taking the time out.
You don't.
Yeah, I said do not miss these gems.
Go ahead, Light.
Yeah. I just want to thank y'all for the most part for taking the time out. For the most part, the fact that you keep on being as genuine as real as you are, the answers that you gave us, none of it was in any way shifted or in any way coded. And I love that because that's what we need more of when we have people on here, when we are building with each other. The fact that Jessica, you sat there and told, Brandon, like, "Yo, come up with us when everything gets safe." I love that because that builds a community of strength that we all need. And especially at times of right now, especially at times of loss, especially at times of tragedy, especially at times of everything negative. I always say positive energy always causes elevation. This is exactly what y'all modeled for us today. The fact that y'all was exactly that, positive, helpful, sat there and gave words of encouragement to each other and to us. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much from SoundMinds, the podcast. Again, whatever you ever need from me, I am here. Real LiteSkin 123 is my handle. LiteSkin stands for living through every situation known in nature. And whatever you ever need, please do not hesitate. SoundMinds.
Thank you.
And with that being said, we're going to close out with the SoundMinds drop. Thank you to our guests once again, Brandon Leake, Jessica Care Moore. This has been a great episode 1 of season 2. And once again, we all going to say it together, SoundMinds.
SoundMinds. I said it like SoundMinds. Don't miss them. Good night, y'all. Take care, Brandon.
For sure.
All right.
Catch y'all.
What is violent right now?
Wow.
That's fine. There we go.
This is the SoundMinds Podcast. You don't want to miss these gems. You don't want to miss these gems. You don't want to miss these gems. This is the SoundMinds Podcast. You don't want to miss these gems. You don't want to miss these gems. You don't want to miss these gems. This is the SoundMinds Podcast. You don't want to miss these gems. You don't want to miss these gems. You don't want to miss these gems. This is the SoundMinds Podcast. You don't want to miss these gems. You don't want to miss these gems. You don't want to miss these gems, no.